Are you an entrepreneur or ready to become a boss? Welcome to Hawaii Boss, the business podcast made in Hawaii, where you will hear from island movers and shakers on who they are and their impact on our state. And now, step into the office of your host for Hawaii Boss, David Pettijohn.
Aloha, Hawaii Boss podcast listeners out there. Tuning in for another great week. We have so many cool guests that come on. And just in our few short life here on the Hawaii Boss podcast, being able to meet these cool people has been a real pleasure for me. This week is no different. Here with Miss Danielle Irwin, who is the president of the Makaha Learning Center. She's also the chief strategy officer at Hawaii Unified. It's a Hawaii-based construction, energy, and facility maintenance company. So what her current endeavor is to really create opportunities. And that's what we're looking for in the Hawaii Boss podcast. We're going to her office. We're going to find out how she's creating opportunities for the resources, the rich resources of the people of the West Side, and the opportunities, matching those opportunities in construction management and building and the construction trades, and marrying those with those construction companies that are building and all of this booming building and the West Side there. So it's a perfect marriage. She seems to be a problem solver and make things happen, and a young executive with Hawaii and Aloha in mind. Look forward to sharing our time that we spent together with all of you. Aloha.
Aloha, Hawaii Boss podcast crew out there listening in. We went all the way out to Makaha this week to find our very special guest today, Danielle Irwin. She is the Chief Strategy Officer at Hawaii Unified, but she's also the founder and president of Makaha Learning Center. So we're going to learn about all that she's doing out there on the West Side and some of the things that she's trying to create and build as one of the bosses here in Hawaii. And so today we welcome Danielle.
Hey, thank you so much, David. Really excited to be able to share a little bit and chat with you.
For sure. Well, the pleasure is all mine. You know, we get a chance to talk. We get a chance to talk to a lot of people, but certainly young folks like yourself. I consider you young. I'm a little aging as time goes, but it's really neat to see young entrepreneurs like yourself beginning to create and seeing that they have that capacity within themselves to create. And so, tell us a little bit about, I think, which is really a highlight of our conversation should be today, is the Makaha Learning Center. And tell us a little bit about that, and then we're going to go back a little bit and talk about how you got there. But you know, what is it that what does the Makaha Learning Center provide for the community?
Sure. So the Makaha Learning Center is a native 501c3.
Mm-hmm.
We provide training, construction trade training and construction trade opportunities to the Waianae Coast community and also to Native Hawaiians. So we really took a look at how we could best serve people here out on the Waianae Coast. And we thought that, you know, there's such a growing gap right now in the construction industry and really a need for skilled tradesmen that we thought if we could train them in those skills that are, you know, really in need right now, that they would be highly marketable and we would be able to create sustainable pathways for them. So in a nutshell, that's what the Makaha Learning Center does, just really trying to meet the community where it's at while thinking about the future needs of Hawaii and marry those two together.
Sure. So we call it vocational training or trades training. Is that specific to construction?
Yeah. So craft training, skilled craft training, workforce development, that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's different than, you know, not all of us. I know my parents were bakers. So not, you know, it's a trade, a baking trade. It's a little bit different now because everything's frozen and they bring it in. But trades, I was raised, I didn't know there was difference, blue collar, white collar. I didn't know any of that. I thought I just didn't want to go be a baker. But I didn't realize that there's all these other trades that are really valuable, that are and in high demand. What are some of the trades that you're trying to, or that you're teaching there as potential career paths and pathways for them for success?
Sure. So what we're focusing on right now is the foundation and the core. So in their core, they're going to get 8 different foundational skills that they're going to learn, including everything from, you know, construction math, hand tools, power tools, how to read construction drawings, so on and so forth. So that's
Sure.
really the foundation. Now,
Sure.
from there, they can branch off into any different craft that they want to, whether it's plumbing, electrical, HVAC, etc.
Right.
But as a second step to that, what we really focus on is training in the renewable energy space. So
Okay.
PV installation. I mean, I'm sure you know that Hawaii's got a gigantic goal to reach 100% renewable energy by 2045. And so
That's huge. Yeah.
everybody's really excited about that, right? But nobody's thinking about how we're going to develop the workforce to get us to that goal.
Mhm.
So our idea is to really train up our community and plug them into those gaps so that when we get to the point where we're actually constructing these projects,
Mhm.
our people here in Hawaii aren't going to be the losers again because they're not ready to take on the work. And now we have to import more resources into Hawaii.
Right. And I've seen this before too, as I've, traveled back and forth from the Big Island. I've got folks coming over on Monday mornings with their, with their whole toolkit, coming over to work from the Big Island, come over here to work for the week in construction. And that's how they can, make some money. What about some folks from the Waianae Coast? Why not? Since, they could have the same training and resources.
Exactly. We've seen it here on the West Side with the Sea Rider Productions. Waianae really got known for that. Also some of the programs that they have coming out of the farms like Ala Farm and things like that, some of those programs. And so we just really thought that, hey, the resources are right here. We just need to develop them. And why not the Waianae Coast? Why not pour a little bit into this side and really get known for that? Hey, there's a bunch of good guys coming out of that side that can, build a solar system, no matter what that looks like. And we know that their training is solid and that they're hard workers. So,
right.
Yeah.
So, and that's awesome, really training up. And I think every industry is dealing with that right now, finding skilled workers. We're all competing actually for the same folks.
Yeah.
Too, but again, sometimes Waianae Coast, that's quite a drive if you got to get a job all the way into town. But all the construction and everything is happening out Eva side and Kapolei side. So why not get them? Then their drive to work is easier too. They're not having to go across, or travel to another island or whatever.
Yeah. So I mean, that's the one thing about in construction, you kind of follow where the work is. So. Really not limited geographically, but it's just really exciting to me to be able to focus on the Waianae Coast and this community that I grew up in, and feel like I'm finally able to feel like I'm contributing back into my community.
Right. And not everybody catches that vision. So that's what I wanted to talk about. Okay, Waianae girl, born and raised, so, what are the pathways, as you see, people who you grew up with, are there, maybe not, like I said, not everybody's going to school, but, what was your perspective? What was your first job and what got you into sort of, seeing that you had some value and you could contribute to the community?
Right. Well, I grew up on this side. And so when you grow up in an environment, you don't necessarily realize how it's different from other environments, right?
Sure.
You don't really realize how the trajectory of you and your friends are different until you're all grown up and looking back, right? And so I went to school actually in town. I went to the University Laboratory School. It's a small school right on the UH campus, but it's a high school.
Sure.
They did curriculum research and development. And so I've got two core groups of friends, I would say, right? So one here from the coast where I grew up, and then one group that was from all over the island, really. And so it's difficult. Okay, so some obvious things that I can see are just differences in career paths, differences in educational opportunities, differences in when they started families, whether or not they got married, whether or not they're on public assistance, that sort of thing.
And you might not have seen that had you grown up with everybody else necessarily. The schooling, again, maybe gave you some different perspectives because there was maybe from all over the islands people came. And so now you heard like, oh, there's different stories. Oh, people live like that, or people do it like that. And so you get this education that says, okay, maybe life doesn't have to be exactly like we grew up in. Maybe there's a different way. So that's an interesting perspective, it's sort of a nice, opportunity that you had to explore your horizons. And I think, and maybe you can provide some feedback on this, that kind of experience, broadening your horizons, how do you then go back and approach, hey, there's some differences. My old friends, we don't think alike, or you've got these two different groups. And how do you sort of, you're still connected with why you're still Y and I, right? But you're still, but now you've learned some things that, listen, maybe we don't have to think that way about, that's not the way the world works exactly. So how do you start to bridge that, for yourself and for your friends?
So I actually had two very different perspectives growing up and two very different examples. So my mom is from Canada.
Mm-hmm.
She's of the mindset that you don't get a graduation party from high school. That's expected.
Right.
You get a graduation party after you
graduate.
Well,
now it's different in Hawaii. Right? A graduation party is like, we're going to throw all of it at you because we don't know if that's probably about as far as you're going to go, maybe. Or this is how we do it. We're celebrating you're 18, now you're on your own, and good luck, kid.
Exactly.
Right.
And then my dad is that homegrown local boy at the beach every day, fishing,
mm-hmm.
diving, all that
mm-hmm.
fun stuff. So I really would say that I'm a product of both of my parents, really a blend. But I would say that the perspective that I grew up with, because of the influence from my mom and because of my dad's, just philosophy of being true to yourself and excellence,
Right.
It really did grow up this way. And I think that foundation is something that's really important and a differentiator for people. And that's why at the Learning Center, we focus on foundation as much as we do with capacity.
Sure.
But what I'm trying to get at is that I actually didn't realize until I was older that there was a little bit of a different perspective or a thought process between me and some of my friends that grew
mm-hmm.
up on the coast. And with each experience I had, it's like, here's the bar, right? The
mm-hmm.
expectation is here. And with each experience, it's like the bar gets higher and the bar gets higher and the bar gets higher. So I think it's a little bit about shifting the mindset,
mm-hmm.
As much as it is, just throwing skills at people.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, because again, you can throw all these technical stuff at them, but if they don't see their what it does for them as their career or what it adds to them, it's just another checkbox rather than how does this help me to become now more fit provider for my family, or a more able and more easily employed person, or again, what's it for? Just what's the purpose? I guess finding your own purpose and mission, your mindset. How do you to tell someone you can be more than what you are now?
Yeah. And so I went through many iterations of my career
mm-hmm.
before I actually, decided that it was time to start focusing back on the community.
Sure. So tell us how that's exhibited in your career. You went to school, you went and your current role in Unity, Hawaii Unified.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us how is that where you really found that giving back to the community is something that really can make a difference?
Yes. So I think that in the last maybe 5 years is when I realized that I actually had the capacity to be able to give into the community. I started out my very first job, actually,
mm-hmm.
I was a lay greeter at the Honolulu International Airport.
Sure.
I was 16 years old. I had 75 lays on each arm. I got to be a part of that very first experience of people,
right.
As I'm coming off the plane and getting to experience Hawaii. And that was at 16.
Mm-hmm.
From that point on, I pretty much worked nonstop through college. And there was just really no slowing down for me
mm-hmm.
at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I would say kind of my big break, if you will, was after college. I was a journalism and a literature major.
Okay.
I moved to Maui, and I actually got a job that was too big for myself at the time, but hey, I faked it till I made it. But I was a public relations manager for Sheraton Maui. And so that was incredible. I got to travel, the United States, sharing about Hawaii and doing
Right.
the hula in freezing cold weather and doing all this kind of stuff,
So
right?
you became a brand ambassador for the Hawaii Marriott.
Exactly,
Uh-huh.
exactly. And so, I did that, and then I'm a serial entrepreneur. So after that, I started a graphic design company. I've
Mhm.
owned a few wedding and event companies on Maui and on the Big Island.
Mhm.
And then after that is when my husband and I decided that we needed to be on a similar path. And so I came into Hawaii Unified, the organization that he started about 14 years ago,
Okay.
as the strategy officer.
Okay.
So that brings us to today.
Mhm.
I've been, about, I would say, 4 years ago,
Mhm.
actually took over leadership of the Learning Center. And since then, that's when we've been churning all of these ideas and development and actually getting programming in place. And I'm happy to say that actually last year we got about 90 students credentialed in core construction, in construction site safety, and in solar.
Wow. That's amazing. And did that exceed, when you start up or you've been working on certain things, you set projections for the year and different things like that. Is that more than you thought it was going to be, or is there more potential out there? How does that sit in the middle of that result, that 90 folks,
Mhm.
where do you see it going in the future? I mean,
We,
realistically.
yeah, we definitely squeezed out every ounce of the funding that we got and really
Sure.
maximized that as much as we could, especially in a COVID season where we had to flex and we had to scramble for larger spaces, for social distancing and things like that. I would say that all things considered, I think we did a great job
Hmm.
in the results, but of course we always want to grow, and
Right.
of course as we as people start graduating out, getting their credentials, getting
Right.
jobs, other people hear about it and they want to participate. And so here on this side, the biggest hurdle to education, I would say,
Hmm.
is um, you know, financing their education. And so
Sure.
that's why the majority of the programs that we offer are actually free and at no charge to the students, right?
Wow.
So that's our goal, is to connect the hungry students, those that really want to have a change in their life,
Hmm.
connect them with the opportunities, for education, things that are going to make, I would say, generational changes and create generational wealth, right?
Right, where going paycheck to paycheck, but actually they develop a trade, skills in a trade, and then they become valuable in a way that they never thought was possible. That, wow, people really, if I do a good job with this, people will pay me for it and pay me pretty well. And it doesn't all have to be programming and code and all that stuff. That's what they say, but there's real hands-on. Some people aren't built for sitting in front of a computer and doing that stuff. Something like my older brother, he's an outdoor guy. He's lawn care and maintenance. That's the business he decided he wanted to be in, because
Yep.
that's, he's an outdoor guy. And so, men, women, whatever it is, trying to find a fit, and construction can do a lot of, I think, provides a lot of opportunities for folks, and it meets their sort of their physical and mental, needs, rather than having to conform, go sit in an office somewhere and be something else that they're not made for. Go to school. This is schooling, but it's a mentoring. What's the difference between trade training and say going to university?
Um, I, so when I went to university, I got my, put in my 4 years, got my certificates, and then realized at the end of the day, it was all theory.
Right.
And so what we do with our training is, for every concept that we're teaching, there's lab work associated with it. We use I would say the industry standard, the industry's best curriculum through
Mm-hmm.
NCCR and through Solar Energy International,
Mm-hmm.
which is going to provide that the standard, training. But then what we've done is we've actually created different field training experiences that we layer on top of that, so that it goes beyond the theory, right?
Sure.
Beyond just performance evaluations. And I think that those are really the parts of the program that potential employers find really valuable,
Right.
right?
That they've had hands-on experience already before they hit the job. They're not just got the certificate and go, where do I go? What do I do? But they've been on a work site, maybe. Yeah.
Yes.
Or they have, and they've seen it, and they've actually done the things that they're going to be doing when they're on out on the actual workforce.
Yep. So we do project builds. We've got a mock roof for our solar program where they're on there actually working on, this 6-foot high roof. And some of them have opportunities then to go on to different internships, externships. One of the things that we've done that I think is really unique is we've brought different contractors together to be able to have meet and greets and face-to-faces with our students. And I think that actually helps to provide, that next step in the pathway, right? Like after they get their credentials, we don't want to be like, okay, good luck, see you later. We want to be able to be a resource for them. And so being a part of that really, I think brings things full circle.
Well, I think universities and schools like this are that bridge between folks who need the training, but also the businesses that need those skilled workers. And so you become sort of this bridge or, advocate for both sides and then as you do that, I guess you found that need out there. There was no one sort of putting this together for folks. There's different programs. The university has programs, trades programs and stuff, but really focused. I mean, you have a laser-like focus on, Waianae Coast, Hawaiian specific. And again, so that you can really concentrate and lift those specific group of folks. Any success stories out there? Anyone that, that stands out or something that says, their life has changed around, or you don't have to share their name if they're, but again, something that you recall that, wow, this has been a life changer for these folks.
Gosh, I think that every single student that comes through the program goes on a personal journey. So a big part of what we do is, like I talked about, building foundation, right? Every student that goes through our programs not only completes their construction education, they also go through a study in Aloha. And that study of Aloha is something that I think is completely unique to this program. Something that I learned from my mentor, Pono Shim, who is the CEO of the Oahu Economic Development Board. And as we go through that, they're actually working on all of the different values of Aloha, which helps them to do the work that's needed to develop those skills that's really going to make them successful, as they go to enter the marketplace and stuff. So through that work, we've just seen so much transformation with our students. Things like, we'll see, for instance, we had 10 Youth Challenge students come into one of our core construction courses.
Oh, awesome. Love the Youth Challenge.
Yeah, they come in hardened, they come in, proud of all of the naughty things they do. And, they're off to just kind of make their own mark on things. And, a lot of distrust and really to see their focus shift, to see them to start to think about what it is that they actually want, to start to believe that they are capable and that they're worthy of those things. I would say that those are success cases, because what we're trying to do in the short amount of time that we have is to flip a switch in them so that they want more, so that they believe for more, and so that they're going to be driven after they're certified to actually go out and get it, right? So those are some of the changes we've seen. I would say that there's people that come in thinking, okay, I want to become a laborer, right? I'm gonna just sling panels, I'm gonna put them on the roof, whatever that might be. And then after they start going through the coursework, start to discover, hey, you know what? I can actually be a lot more than that. I have a lot more potential than that. We've definitely had, a number of students get hired out of our programs into various companies throughout the island. So I would say all of those are successes. Like I mentioned, leadership of the Learning Center just happened, not too long ago. So there's none of those really long-term stories, those long stories that I can speak to. But I would say that every time we get to interact with a student and we get to kind of mold them, that's a win for us and a success.
And I want to talk about that. I think you started right at the beginning of that. You're changing mindsets, but you're using this mechanism called the training on Aloha. You called it, sort of passed over it, but really it sounds like it's a mechanism to sort of reground them into like, who are you? What is to try and help them find their purpose and mission?
Exactly.
And yeah, because then once if they don't have that, you can add all this stuff on top of them, and then they'll walk right away from it because it doesn't mean anything because they haven't defined their mission and purpose.
Exactly.
So, right. So tell us how, I mean, again, how does one pull out, someone to help them see themselves that they have value? I guess, like you said, they come in, you gave an example, they come in from Youth Challenge, they're tough, they've got this tough exterior, but then it gets down to it, like, I really don't know how to do anything. It's this tough exterior that's sort of this mechanism that they've used to say, don't bother me, I'm okay. But stripping that down a little bit from young men or men or whatever. I'm sure are there any women in your program as well?
Yeah,
of course, because yes. So again, stripping away some of this, like you say, parts that make them feel like, okay, I'm not okay, or I'm not going to be able to do this. I don't have the capacity to do this. Like you said, you found this capacity somewhere. So you're helping them to find, like, yeah, you actually can do these things. Someone was saying the other day, we always say if can, if no can, no can, it's kind of an excuse we allow everyone, but he was saying, no, this, if we're doing hard work, sometimes if we can, if no can, we should try and find a yes. We should try and find a way to make that work, and finding that in yourselves. So, I think that's neat that, that you're really trying to go deeper than just, here's the degree that you can check off and put on your resume. It's like, here, let's help you to change your mind towards something, a whole new future for you that you never imagined.
Yeah. It's really a new way to kind of look at leadership development and personal development. You mentioned identity, and that's something so important. If people don't understand who they are, they can't really accurately define what it is that they want, right? Or where they want to go. So we take it back to those basic concepts that are inside and help them to understand their place in society, their place in community, their relationship to each other, their, the impact that they can have. So really stripping away a lot of these things and bringing everybody into a safe space at the same level, and then doing this work together. So we have a little bit of a captive audience,
Sure.
We to kind of go through this, and, sometimes they're reluctant at first, but I think just, as the group and the trust in the group starts to grow, that's when people really start to open up, and then they start to have collectively these wins together, as their craft skills. So I think it's a system that's worked really well, and an unexpected part of the program that the kids really enjoy, because they all think they're coming in for just straight up how to swing a hammer, how to use a impact gun or whatever it is.
Yeah, then they realize their life changes, and it doesn't have to be like the military where someone's yelling at them. That's how your life is changing, because someone's yelling at them but they're actually being side by side, shoulder to shoulder, being with them, teaching them. It kind of sounds like, there's you may be aware of the City of Refuge, the Hale Ho'oponopono sort of process was similar, I think, in to what you're doing, is that there's a safe space created for folks to sort of be reset or reoriented towards, Ohana and the things that are and community. So I guess you're bringing it to life today, which is pretty awesome. So again, this need, it sounds like your husband and you said that's an important thing too, is that sort of you two aligned what you wanted to do going forward. Because again, you always know that too as a leader. Sometimes, your spouse or significant other, whatever, sometimes it helps when you're aligned and pulling in the same direction a lot of times. And maybe you don't work in the same type of work, but that's always something to consider as a super boss like yourself. You have to, all of your relationships, you really have to manage. And sometimes it's challenging, especially when you want to go do more for the community. You want to make sure that everything's okay in your home. Sometimes we get afraid of exploring something new too, like going and checking out, maybe going and learning some construction, because we're afraid, well, if we do that, I'm going to lose what I got now and I won't know what to do. And so I guess, how do you encourage folks? When people are coming in and exploring, how do you tell them, like, hey, this could really be a path for you?
My dad always said that if you feel like you can do it, then you can do it, right? Or if it's something that really interests you, give yourself a chance and check it out, true to yourself. My husband puts me in uncomfortable places all the time because he's constantly pushing me. And I'm sometimes one of those people that wants to wait for the perfect conditions,
Right.
you know, but I would say that there's no right time, you know, you just have to take a look at the opportunities that are in front of you, you know, make sure you're getting good counsel from people.
Sure.
Make sure you're having the right conversations and then move in those directions. I would say that, you know, if the opportunity is in front of you, take it and make the best you can of it.
Right.
You know, because you never know when that opportunity is going to come back around.
Right.
And I would say, don't be hasty, be patient, trust the process. You know, I can look back on several key times in my life where I did a 180 and walked away from something, even though right behind that door was a gigantic opportunity that I didn't know was being cultivated for me.
Right.
You know? But, you know, I still trust the process. And that's why I'm here where I am today, because in the end, God put a path in front of me and I ended up exactly where I needed to be. But, you know, we hear a lot of things about this generation being impatient, being entitled, being all of
so
these.
Would that be millennium or the next, the Z generation? Which generation are you talking about? Just the younger folks coming up less than 25?
Yes.
25 years or less?
Yes. Well, you know, I actually was born at the very, very, very beginning of the millennials.
Okay.
So I am 38 years old. And even then I could see, you know, there's definitely a difference in the way that I approached my career, the way I approached these things than like my parents who are in the boomer generation, right? Who are not afraid of hard work, who are not like itching for that next step.
Right.
So, yeah, I would say that, you know, we all need to just take a step back and think about what it is that we really want to cause and how do we get there and how do we maximize the relationships around us, you know, and be inclusive in the process.
Right. It's no longer, we're not sort of hearing the echoes of World War II and Vietnam and all that stuff, top-down hierarchy that we all sort of grew up in. I'm Gen X, you know, this is sort of like conform and obey and that kind of thing. But you're hearing these younger guys like, hey, why? You know, why are we doing that? I've got all this access to all this. Why do I need to go to you? Why do I need these relationships? Why is this important? So it's a confusing time, I think, right now, an opportunity for us to be able to, you know, set some clear boundaries, but not sort of the same old sort of normed, sort of forced sort of interactions that, you know, people don't even, after this pandemic too, has messed everything up. No one wants to go into work or they do, but, you know, anyway, or they think that, well, I did my work pretty well being remote. Well, you know, so there's just all these different things are changing. And I think we have to have that open mindset that you had talked about earlier to be able to, you know, figure all this out and accept, because again, like my 12-year-old, she's got an iPad and I mean, she can whip around there faster than anybody and get anything that she needs. And she's going to come into the workplace with all that experience. And, you know, I'm going to say, well, you know, I can barely explain what I need her to do, you know?
Right. We're speaking languages.
Right. And then they're going to look at us like, well, they don't even understand what we're trying to do over here. So there's a gap, the digital gap that, you know, some of the things we have to worry about, but always and forever, we're going to need good hands and good minds that can deliver solid quality building products and, you know, things that we live in, the services that we use and all of those things. So I think it's an amazing thing that you're doing. It's a not-for-profit. So I want to make sure that we talk about if there's some resource needs out there for you, the Makaha Learning Center, if there's folks out there a way to donate, or if you know, there's things that we can talk about to really help the community support what you're doing.
Sure, absolutely. We always need as much help as we can get. You know, if anybody who's listening to this wants to be a part of, you know, the cause and get involved, they can go to www.makahalearning.org. There's a button on there. It'll actually pull whatever you decide to give right out of your PayPal account. Of course, love corporate giving. That's how we got our start. You know, without Hawaii Unified's help in the beginning, it would have been really hard for us to get to where we are today.
Sure.
So partners like Kamehameha Schools, Pacific Current, you know, they've been really helpful. But you know, I would suggest if anyone wants to get involved in corporate giving, there's also another button on there to get in contact, and we'd love to start the conversation, kind of understand how we can align, our goals and vision with the things that they're trying to do within their organizations to make Hawaii a better place. So
yeah, and also to hire the people they need, especially those companies out there. They're going to be knocking on your door for sure, and wanting to make sure that you're successful, because if you're successful, then they're going to get the folks they need and not have to import them in from wherever. So it's a perfect match. So if again, makahalearningcenter.org.
.org. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So everyone.
.org.
What is it?
Makahalearning.org.
Makahalearning.org. Sorry about that. I didn't want to give out. So makahalearning.org. And you can always call up there and ask for Danielle, I'm sure. But, again, amazing thing that you're doing. But before we let you go, and we want to hear more success stories. So we're going to definitely want you back. But before we go, we kind of do like a kind of chill it out a little bit, a pauhana. We kind of ask a few questions, get to know you a little bit more like that. Now, a girl from Waianae may get into a scrap here and there, and this is just maybe you haven't, and maybe you haven't, but a little bit of Pidgin. When you're upset at someone, if you're upset at someone, what are some things a person might say to let them know that you're not happy with your relationship in Pidgin?
Brah. Start with the stink eye and the brah.
Bah, for real, yeah. So yeah, you just kind of like, okay, there's a problem here. So it's an honest communication. It's open.
Yeah. And I would say that definitely, turning it on and turning it off, depending on your audience, is something that's really valuable, especially from this side. I find that I go back into my Pidgin roots,
right.
The kids, because that's the language that they speak. So.
And it's perfectly recognized. Hawaiian Pidgin is a recognized international language. So and each little island is a little different. I think it's so cool. But Waianae has a special type of thick accent up there, especially in Big Island too. Hilo, South Side, Kau area. I mean, that's what makes Hawaii, I think, so unique and exciting. But other thing is, so I know you said you did this little bit of world traveling with Marriott and things like that. Where's the most exciting place you got to visit, or a place that oh gosh, I finally got to go here?
Well, unfortunately,
did that ever happen?
World travel. It was more domestic.
Okay.
That was actually the first time that I found myself in big cities like New York City, like Chicago, and being able to explore those on my own as a young person was really, I would say, mind opening, and it was very freeing,
Right.
So I would say that also, being able to correspond and influence and speak to the people that influence the masses, because
Sure.
I was in public relations, and so I was speaking to those people that were writing stories, and being able to influence them in that way was empowering.
Right. So you found so things like that. You found that okay, now you can use your ability to message in positive ways and really affect change. And again, I think it's so awesome how you pulled all of your experiences together and really decided to turn your massive amounts of awesome boss leader energy towards folks that need it. And I think we all have to learn that at one time or another. There's a point where we do all the leadership and everything like that to make sure we secure things for ourselves and for our family. But I think there's a point where we have to realize, okay, that's not what it's all about. We still have to, support the folks around me, because how could we leave out those folks around us?
My kids, thank God for their sacrifice. Thank God for my parents' sacrifice, just always being there. But, the kids understand that they're blessed, and there are people that are not as fortunate. And so it's important to us to be able to teach them, what that looks like, how their lifestyle differs and how blessed they are. But at the same time, we really do value our family time together. We've got a little 4.5-year-old. She looks just like my mom. She has eyes and blonde hair. And I've got my little surfer boy, Jeff, he's 9. And then I've got a stepson who lives on Maui most of the time. But oh my gosh, he's going to be 16 soon. And it's, gosh, the time flies. And so
Oh, I know
it's
that. Yeah.
important to just, yeah, protect that time with them and make sure that you're raising them in the same way that you were raised, or in the way that you want them to come up, so they can, in a way, continue your legacy or continue
Right.
the work that you're doing, you know?
Right. And we can keep the aloha in Hawaii. I think that's our whole goal as we stay here, to make sure we keep those common values and make those impressions upon our children. That's why I came back here. I mean, I did some high school over here on the Big Island and at Konawaina High School for a little bit. But again, I wanted, because I learned there's so much to learn here about that piece of aloha, and about, connecting and being a part of community, and also respecting the land. And there's just so many things that I thought, I can't teach, from a classroom somewhere. You have to come and experience, Hawaii. And because we've had that experience and we count our blessings, I think the next logical step is to do what you're doing, is to give back, and again, we all secure our Hawaii the way that we want it to be.
And I think you just made such an important point. A lot of people think that they can come into Hawaii and they think they know it all. They think life is going to go on exactly the way that it has. But Hawaii is such a special and unique place. And aloha is so ingrained in who the people are. And like you said, the only way that you can really get an understanding for it is either growing up in it or experiencing it by spending time here. And so
Right.
I love what you guys are doing, because you're finding ways to connect community, and you're finding ways to, think about the bigger picture of creating a win-win situation, right?
Right.
Or how do you create community engagement and things like that? And I think that's so important for people that are coming into the islands, businesses coming into the islands, to really think about and consider. It's just,
Yeah, they should understand the dialogue that's already happening here before they arrive.
Yeah.
They need to know what we talk about and how we talk about important things, about people and about business and about things, so that they get, when they come on, well, you're from New York or you're from wherever, and this is how you do it. Okay, well, now listen for a minute. Let's talk about how we'd like to do it, and let's see if these fit. And we don't mind if it takes time. We'd like it to move faster, but we want to make sure you're on board first with everything before we launch everything with you. So there's a trust feeling out and a relationship building piece that I think folks could do a lot better job at if they didn't make those assumptions, if they listened a little bit more. And the first thing I'll tell them is just go directly to Makaha Learning, and you can get your fill and straight up how you need to act over here. So I bet when you sling that pigeon a little bit, some of those boys get a little scared.
Oh, they think I'm anti. They're like, not gonna mess with you.
She draws the line quick and early, like, oh, okay, just head down and
Yeah. Like, don't call me auntie.
Well, listen, there's a point in life when you get called uncle for the first time or auntie for the first time, you just have to accept it and accept the responsibility that goes with it. So
Yes.
Anyway, I want to thank you, Danielle, so much for being on today. I wish we had more time. We certainly want to see all of these successes and probably interview some of your students as they're coming out and getting their first jobs. We'd love to talk to those folks too. So until we meet again next time, aloha.
Awesome. Thank you so much, David. Aloha.
Yes. Take care. Talk soon.
Make sure to subscribe to Hawaii Boss and follow us on social media at Hawaii Boss Podcast at the links in the description. We'll see you soon in the boss's office.